Welcome to Wednesday Q&A, where you all ask the questions and we answer. I'm joined by my dear friend, Kristin Williams, physical therapist and LYT senior teacher.
Hey, Laura. Hey, everybody.
All right, let's launch right in. So the first question is by Fiona O'Rourke 7932. What movement can I do for the top of the head pain/neck?
That is a great question. And it's actually one of those hidden symptoms that people don't really think about, but it's quite common. That's a classic referral pattern for the suboccipitals, particularly the occiput. You've got a real thin layer of musculature there that with poor posture, not even with poor posture, just with tension, with stress, it refers up over your head like a hood. And it can only be on one side sometimes. Suboccipitals are a group of muscles in the right at the base of your skull that get really shortened with a forward head posture. We get this kind of lengthening of the front side of the neck and shortening of the back side of the neck in order to keep our eyes horizontal. And so people who have chronic issues back there, it can absolutely refer to the top of the head. And that is what I'm guessing that you're feeling this from, because we really, when it comes to, what else is up there, the skull, you can have some fascial restrictions. Absolutely. That's why scalp massages feel so good, because that can get really tied down. But I really truly believe that too is all driven by posture. And our current crisis with, text neck. And we've been having, before even text neck, we had the forward head posture from computers and sitting, and our Western civilization of spending so much time watching screens, no matter where they are, down in our hands or in front of us. So the first thing I would recommend for that type of symptom, I love this thing called a still point inducer. You can Google it. I've had one I'm reaching down to grab mine right now just to show Laura. The very first PT that I worked with gave me this. During PT school, she was a real alternative therapist, big into cranial sacral. And she gave me that because I was having suboccipital tension headaches from being in school, sitting all day long, reading, stressing. And so you can even just put two tennis balls in a sock. You can tape two tennis balls together, and you can do some soft tissue work at the base of the skull, and even right above there where you have more of those occipital muscles. And see if that won't help. Oftentimes, don't be surprised, as soon as you press upon those muscles, it can reproduce the pain too. When that happens, that's usually a pretty good indication. Ding, 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 ding. That is part of the problem, is you have so much tension there that you press on those muscles and they go zing and you feel it. It's also not uncommon to have them around your head like a headband. So that's the other kind of traditional manifestation of suboccipital tension headache type pain. But don't be afraid to do scalp massage. They've got those great little things with they kind of look like little alien hands,
I have one. It's called the Tingler.
Yeah.
And it's like the Tingler, and it has Mark got it for me years ago because he's like, you love having your head scratched. I mean, doesn't everybody? There's so many great, and so it's called the Tingler, and it's like you do it and you just, it really releases some, because of the sutures in your scalp. There's fascia that connects that, right? So that we have that natural fusing of the bone, but then there's fascia surrounding it, and that can kind of feel, with the rest of the tension from the improper posture, can feel like it's just, oh my gosh. It's like it's kind of like trying to, I always say it's like trying to put the queen size sheet on a king size bed. It just feels so like, good. Right? You're just so that's what it feels like when your fascia is just getting pulled from one end of the body to the other, and something is off, off place. So it's like really there's tension created by that again. So the Tingler really helps. And I love I love the idea. So Mark also has this because he got the idea of, I forgot who was from. It wasn't from me, but yeah, the 2 tennis balls, and you put them in a little like mesh bag, and then they just basically the tennis balls are fitting like on your occipital condyles, which are these little bumps where your skull is balancing, and it's kind of like your ischial tuberosities. Like we have these little bumps there, but man, if those little bumps are painful when you push on them, you know that this could be definitely the root cause of that tension headache.
Yeah, so work on triple S, try to lengthen out those suboccipitals. Work on, your jaw, that you're not clenching your jaw. That can all come up, your upper traps. Believe it or not, your hips can be tight. We can feel that all the way up the chain. Look at your pelvis. Where is your head in space, and why is that soft tissue restricted, if it is? Or why are you holding it there? Just like you said, I love how you talk about, like, you get that pull in the t-shirt here, but you feel it all the way
it's
down up
I mean, I have to say, the many people, even in a year like now, COVID, where I'm not seeing nearly the number of people I would see in person, I've still seen a ton of privates. And I can't remember the last time I saw somebody that did not have that, or that did have their head in the right place.
Oh yeah.
In the best. It's like everybody is dealing with this to one degree or another. So you're not alone, my friend. But you do have to do something about it, because if you're experiencing these tension headaches, that's not fun. And if you even think about this, if you have this channel that's going from your spine up into your brain, and you've closed off that channel, it would make sense that your blood flow isn't going to be as good. The nerve going, the signals. There's impediments to all of those things. And so it is really, it's kind of an alarm bell for all of us to really do something, because if we really think about, like, this CEO, the brain up here, we should be like focusing on this. Like our entire work should be like, how do we help people realign their skull? Because it's that important. Like all the stuff that's happening in your body, brain, systems, thoughts, everything is happening up here, and then it's going out into the body. So let's work on that. I didn't mean to go in a pulpit there, but yeah,
I love it.
It's a big deal. Like everybody's dealing with this. All right, so our lovely Sharon asked, when you train with rowers or athletes in general, but I think she was talking about rowers, do you reinforce triple S while rowing? I try to keep my alignment and neutral pelvis. Just curious if you already addressed this. Sharon, I didn't even know you rowed. How's that? Maybe so, the whole idea of understanding triple S is not that you're subjected to stay in it all the time with every movement, because, of course we're going to have spinal flexion at times. Of course we're going to have, we're going to have some internal rotation or something. Like it's not so much that you would never not be in it, but that you really want to have clear proprioceptive, exteroceptive, interoceptive, everything idea of where you are in space and how you can, align yourself, because that starting position does set you up for better communication with your body, firing of the muscles, etc. So with rowers, like I would with any athlete, I look at what's happening. They're flexing a lot at their hips, they're flexing a lot at their knees, and then they've got a lot of flexion in the torso to be able to get that oar forward. And so ideally, I would love for them to keep a neutral spine, because they're going to be able to really, neutral in the sense that it's not rounded before they do some rotation to it. But I think the human body does allow for some of that flexion to happen if your core is really strong. Now, where they're injured a lot is in the low back or in the rib cage. And both of that is when these systems aren't working as well. They're moving more in the pelvis and low back as opposed to flexing in the hips. So Sharon, you're so well versed and educated in this. So I think it's great that you're keeping that in mind. But know that when you go into a deep range of hip flexion, and then you also have to reach, there could be some lumbar flexion. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're prepared for it. Do you have any
I would just say, especially an elite athlete, when we're coming in and working with them, we're not unless they're injured, we're not changing what they're doing, what they have put countless hours in to become elite trained. We're not changing that. We're talking to them more about what they're doing out of the boat, so they can reverse what they're doing all the time in the boat. Now, when they come to us, whether it's a rower, whether it's a cyclist, whether it's a whatever, and they're injured, then we might look at particularly runners, or, again, it's all, what can we change to decrease tension through a specific body part? But, just be mindful. I think this is more of like a PSA, which we're getting ready to start our specialty module. I'm so excited dealing with athletes, but we kind of talk about that. Like, this is what your athlete in this sport might have, and just being mindful of, whether you're in season, whether you're out of season, what is your goal? We're not looking to change what's working for them. We're looking to change what they're doing out of their sport, more so. And so someone like Sharon, who does multiple things, I didn't know she rode either. That's really cool. She's spending so little time in the boat, comparatively speaking. Absolutely, yes. We want her to think about triple S. We want her to think about hinging at the hips and not rounding at the spine, because that's going to be your best bet for not getting injured, especially because she's so well versed and well tuned. You got to reach for those oars, and there's going to be some flexion. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you can injure the hip if you're not rounding in some way in the back. So that's another thing you have to watch for, that you're balanced.
Yeah. Adaptable. Adaptable. And like you said, we are PTs, and that means we can look at a lot of different people doing a lot of different things, but we are not specialists I'm not a tennis coach. Exactly. So I've worked with tennis players, and I'm not asking them like, let's improve your form. What I'm looking at is, where are you imbalanced, and how can I help to better balance out some of the natural imbalances that'll happen in that sport, and always getting into more core integration, because that, I will say across the board with most athletes, no matter how great they are at their sport, most of them need deeper, more proximal core strengthening, because it's just, I haven't met too many that haven't needed that. So I totally agree. It's like, I'm not going to change the way they're doing anything. I just want to look at where can I help them balance out those imbalances that are going to be part of that. Yeah. That's so important to know. So Sharon, keep us posted with how it's going. Okay, so we had another question about inversions, which we are asked, or I certainly have gotten this before, so it's no surprise. Mary Laura asked, I tend to hold my breath every time I try to get into handstand or pincha forearm balance. Any advice? That's going to happen.
And don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. First of all, that's fine. Sometimes I think people think holding the breath is bad. And I'm just like, it's not bad if that's not how you're walking around in life, right? Like, holding your breath is a natural response, because your breath apparatus is intricately part of your core. And so when we are doing something that requires more core than we're used to, more demand, we will pull in all the stops. We're going to pull in the system, and that's going to be like, I'm going to pull into my body, and actually holding my breath in retention is getting me kind of locked in to the deepest core muscles. So there's nothing wrong. It's totally natural, and don't panic about it, right? So what you'll do is, over time, you'll become aware, like, oh, I'm holding my breath. And once you get more balance, because what you'll notice is, you start breathing again, sometimes that's when people fall, because they've relied on like every possible thing they could eke out, and then they let go of a little bit of it, and they just don't have the stability in the other places. So it's just, you just play around with it and know that it will get better. And as you get more stable and stronger, you will naturally find your breath when you're upside down. So a lot of times people will get into the position kind of on a exhale, because that helps, consolidate. And then they might have their breath retention. I think of it as breath retention. It's not holding the breath like you're trying to, like you're struggling. It's actually a way of integrating into center. And then you'll find, okay, I'm going to start to breathe. And so, yes, it's totally normal. You don't have to change anything about it, except that give yourself even more core support practice it in other ways too, so that it becomes easier to not have to hold your breath, if that makes sense.
No, totally. And I mean, gosh, when I was first starting inversions and handstands, I mean, I was, because I was holding my breath, it's a great way to cue your core. And when you don't, let's say, because you're still learning, your shoulder is learning, your shoulder girdle is learning what it needs to do. Your core is learning what it needs to do. Your pelvis is learning what it needs to do. So the more pieces of the puzzle that you can kind of train, then the better off you are, because then once your shoulder starts, oh, okay, now I know what to do. My scapula knows what to do. Your core, quote unquote, has to do less. So you're better stacked once you learn how to do a handstand, and you've got gravity working for you now. You're right perpendicular to the floor, so there's less demand on that core to support the trunk. It's amazing. I mean, now I can talk, I can hold on conversations, I can turn my head, look around. Good Lord, when I was first starting, I was laser focused, super out of breath. And that's normal. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with it. Use it. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not going to give yourself a freaking stroke or anything.
Yeah. I mean, unless you have high blood pressure. Yeah. There's, this is all within reason, but sure. It's totally normal. It's totally normal. And I'm sure you're young and don't have any issues. And I mean, young as in below 70, below 80. So, if you were that age and holding your breath a lot, then I would still, be sure. A little, but yeah, it's just part of it. And as long as when you come down, you don't feel super dizzy or anything. And sometimes you will, by the way. Sometimes if you've been holding your breath, you'll come down. And so you take a couple of moments before you lift your head way up or and just get some breath in. But I mean, breath is the cycle of breathing is inhaling, inspiring, exhaling, expiring, and then retention. Retention is part of our breath cycle. And so just replace holding breath with retention. And so if it's a true retention where you're just kind of garnering your strength, that is normal. You're going to do that. If I'm about to lift something heavy, I naturally, even though I feel pretty strong, I know I hold my breath. I'm just, I want everything supporting my lumbar spine, and I want to support and I've got a load, and a demand. So we do this naturally. It's kind of, we're smart that way. So you're smart. Think of it that way.
Exactly. Because you probably aren't even thinking about it. It's just happening because that's what your body is telling you. Your brain is telling your body to do that. Hold your breath to support your core. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And it will, again, that'll get better with time and practice and stacking and all of that. So Move with JoJo ask, and this is kind of gonna this will be our bookend for the podcast. How can text neck impact shoulders, pain in the shoulders? So we talked about how it can create stuff above with tension headaches, and but boy, it affects the whole chain. That's why I just did a private yesterday, and I was looking at her down dog, for instance, and it was just her down dog, so she was rounded in the thoracic spine too much, right? And so what does that do? That impacts the way you can flex at your hips because you're rounded in the spine, so the pelvis is not really kind of in its best position to then let the femurs glide up in it. And then her head was kind of stuck in a text neck-like way, which is that she was actually pulling back too much and kind of, not letting it relax, but actually trying. I can't exactly imitate it, but it was because some of those the stuff was stuck there, like what we were talking about, the suboccipitals. So then she's rounding. So she's basically taking her position and trying the best she can. So for her, it was the first thing I did was I got to free up your neck. I just worked on her neck for, 10 minutes doing myofascial stuff. And the difference in her down dog was incredible. So the answer to your question is she couldn't get out of excessive thoracic kyphosis in down dog. Well, that means that she's probably in that a lot during the day, which means that her shoulders are forward and rounded during the day, which means that she's probably increased activity in her pectorals, the muscles that were going to adduct her and internally rotate her shoulder head. And so everything is reinforcing the position of the head. So the head is making everything like that happen. And yeah, it's then you go and move your shoulder and it's not in its best alignment. So it could hurt at rest just because it's like totally getting tugged forward, and those poor, like the reins of your shoulders are like, oh my gosh, I can't help you out anymore. All the shoulder muscles in the back. And then, yeah, then you start to move with it and you're not in the best position. So that's my very, very short, not so short answer. What would you like to add on to that?
Well, I'm just sitting here watching you move, and I'm sitting here thinking, we need to be putting this stuff on. We need to be recording these and putting them out there, because watching you move was was articulating in your body what I was thinking about saying in my head. Because we think of text neck as being restricted. It's just the neck, and it's not. How often you never see somebody with an erect, upright, shoulders that are centered and nice cervical, upper thoracic spine that's in a text neck, a forward head. No, everything comes forward. And so let me just ask you, anybody out there listening to this, come into poor posture, slouch, and lift your arm up. How high can you reach? It is going to be functionally, you're going to go almost as high, but not as much. But actually not functionally, but actual range of motion might be as high, but functionally it's going to be 1.5 to 2 feet lower, because you aren't able to open up your chest, extend in the thoracic spine, draw the scapula, upwardly rotate it, blah, 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 blah. Text neck affects down the chain, and that does include the shoulder. And you saw it manifested amazingly in a down dog. We see it manifesting in the shoulders with open chain, reaching and, the stuff that hurts when your shoulder hurts. And so you see it both. So if you can really, again, bringing it all back to posture, try to optimize your posture by minimizing your text neck. And I promise you will see a change in your shoulders, because you're just putting it at a better mechanical advantage. It's all about mechanics. It's all about physics. We're just trying to keep these machines working optimally, efficiently, and the most effectively as possible. But I'm serious. We need to start recording these side by side, and just watch the way we're moving, and we're
showing it, because it's fascinating. I mean, because I know that, we are so good at scouting out and knowing that the origin of the issue is not where the issue, right? So shoulder pain, okay, maybe it's shoulder pain, but it has, I worked on her neck for 10 minutes, and it was like her thoracic spine just all of a sudden, it's looked like flatter, which is extended. Sure. So it's just crazy, because she wasn't getting this complete resistance from her head position. So it is, and then think about something like plank, where you don't even have gravity helping out, like in down dog, you're fully horizontal. So this is why LYT is so, I don't have to preach to the choir here, but this is why it's so different, is that we're actually saying it's not good enough to take your habits and bring them into your yoga practice, because guess what? You're probably going to reinforce them, because those are the people who are stuck in plank with the protracted shoulder, because their head is just dropped down and they literally can't extend the thoracic spine to get the scapula neutral. And those people they've got to work on their head. They've got to work on the head position. So yeah, we could go on and on, but yes, we would love to hear from you. So write us, let us know if you want to see some video versions of this. And I think we know the answer to it, but we love hearing from you. So write us and let us know if you'd like to hear that. Share this with friends. And of course, let us know if you have any questions, because we love hearing all your questions. You can write Kristin at kbwilliams99 and lara.hyman on Instagram. Those are the best places to direct message us. But as always, it's such a pleasure. I love talking to you.
It's so fun. I could do it for hours on end.
I know. I love it. We're so passionate about this stuff, and we love sharing it with you all. And as always, we are pulling for you.